Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Common Denominator, and this is the second installment of Black Male Toxicity. The title of this conversation is What About Dante? And I'm joined by my friend, good friend. He's going to remain unnamed, but we see eye to eye on a lot of these things. We see what's happening, and we're going to if you haven't heard part one, go ahead and listen to part one. It's going to set the foundation for this topic. This is black male toxicity. All right, bro, you there?
I am here.
All right, so what about Dante? Let's do a quick thing here, a quick recap. I want you to go ahead and start off with your points because you made some valid points off air. We were talking about Dante is never addressed. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is we have black leaders that will be up in arms when it comes to race issues, especially if it's white on black, police brutality, etc. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the black on black issue, when it comes to inner city issues that are perpetrated by those that live within the inner cities, mm-hmm. we don't hear a peep out of these black leaders.
Right.
And one thing that I would like to see is them step up to the quote unquote Dante mm-hmm. like person and call them out.
Call them out.
Call them out, because like I said previously, unless we are policing our own, unless we are working within ourselves mm-hmm. individually and as a community, how can we expect anybody outside of us to come to our aid, to help us get to that next level? We can't. Because we're not doing it for ourselves.
Exactly. Let me. This is a good time to plug this quote. I saw someone, on the Common Denominator Facebook page. There was someone who one of the subs posted something, a comment, but it was like it showed up as like an image, like a big picture, but there was like comments in there, and it said. This is what the comment said. It said basically what you're saying. It said whenever there's like a police brutality or something in the community, everybody comes together and speaks up. But whenever the local gangbangers or criminals or drug dealers need to be addressed, there's basically silence in the black community. And what we want to do today is talk about why that is, and we want to talk about this fictitious that we're going to use the name Dante. Okay, the title of the show is What About Dante, and obviously Dante is a black American name, and we're going to use this name Dante to reference these people in the community who basically get away with murder. And then on top of that, there's the no snitching policy that's in the community, right? No snitching.
Yes.
So you can't tell on Dante. And we're probably touching on one of the main causes right there. The fact that there's a no snitching policy in place in the hood, in the black communities is dangerous, because I feel that it emboldens criminal behavior.
Yes.
If you know that people aren't going to snitch on you or tell the authorities, what are the chances that young men and young women will commit crimes and do things? Come on, the chances are very, very high. Wouldn't you say?
They are.
They're very high, and I think that's the first problem with the community. This whole no snitching policy. But on top of that, the policy is adhered to by, it's enforced by a sort of gang mentality. Like I've heard before in rap songs, snitches get stitches.
Yes.
We've heard that before, right?
Yes.
In a famous Dr. Dre song, he says hollow points for the snitches. Okay?
Yes.
I think it's a song called Let Me Ride. It's off of the Chronic album.
Yes.
Okay? And this is the culture. Dante runs the community. He sets up the law. He is the law. He is the enforcer in the community. And I remember I was watching an interview the other day. It was Ricky Smiley. I think it was Ricky Smiley on the Wendy Williams show. She interviewed him.
Okay.
And she was asking him something about, I think it was Snoop Dogg or somebody. And while I talk, I'm going to look it up just to kind of be clear on this. And he said something like, oh, I don't want any problems with these guys.
This was Smiley saying that.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was saying it in a realistic way. He was like, he was like, and this interview happened a week ago, and she asked him something in the beginning. I'm gonna try to listen to it really quickly while we're here for context. Let me just.
It's called Stand By Your Truth, and then
let's pause for a second.
Life. I love that. Give it up for Ricky Smiley.
All right, so here's Ricky Smiley coming out. All right.
Picked up for 5 more years. 5 more years.
Yeah, 5 more years with Urban One. Shout out to Kathy Hughes. Kathy Hughes, Afro-Religion. These black folks, Radio 1 and TV 1. So I'm excited. So.
Now, do they pick everybody up or just you?
Oh, no, it's everybody.
The entire.
Me, Brat, the Brat head crack, Gary with the T. Rock T. Yeah, I know you love Gary. And thank you for coming on our morning show, too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk hot topics. What do you think about Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson and the whole Super Bowl thing? By herself.
By herself, right. She never, when you got 3 black royalty families.
Here it is. Okay.
$1 million. What do you make of that?
All right, so let me pause. Okay, let me set it up. Okay. I'm gonna cut out a lot of this. I'm gonna cut out a lot of that stuff. All right, so here we go. Okay, so here's the part where it was about Birdman. You know Birdman, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, for those who don't know who Birdman is, everyone listening to this should know who Birdman is. What does Birdman look like? I mean,
yes, I know exactly what you're saying, bro.
He looks exactly like. He looks kind of scary. The dude has tattoos all over his face and his head, on the top of his head. He has a star on top of his head. He's got the grill. He's what we described yesterday, right? So Wendy Williams asks him a question about Birdman. Now let's listen to this. Hold on a second.
What do you make of Birdman being, $12 million? What do you make of that?
And then, the little stuff with Lil Wayne, you owe Lil Wayne money, then you lose the mansion, and I don't know, that's
tough, right?
Yeah, I'm scared to say something because I don't want to get my ass kicked.
Okay. Now, all right, so we have that for context, right?
Okay.
We have the video. You could clearly see that he's afraid to talk. Okay, and he's afraid to talk because he doesn't want to talk about Birdman.
Yes.
Not because, if Birdman was Will Smith, he probably wouldn't care. But Birdman is a thug, okay, with goons. So he says it right there. I don't want to get my butt kicked. He said the other word, but I don't want to get my butt kicked. So there it is. So this There's also this in the hood, and the toxic black male toxicity in the culture that has been created. There's fear of reprisal. There's fear of revenge attacks. Snitches get stitches. Hollow points for the snitches. Dr. Dre. It's just known that there will be violence. And it's kind of like the whole mafia type thing, the mob. People are afraid. What do you think about that?
Exactly. Let me put it to you like this, and it's real simple. I had an aunt that lived in South Central Los Angeles. Okay. And as a little kid growing up, we would visit her for Thanksgiving. Visit her during the year just to say hello, etc. And every time we would drive into South Central, I wasn't necessarily afraid, but I was more alert.
Right.
And why was I more alert? It wasn't because I was looking for cops. It wasn't because I was looking for the KKK clan.
Right.
No, I was looking for that hoodlum that was going to act the fool.
Oh my goodness.
Pull out a gun and start shooting. Now, they could very well be shooting at a particular person, but I could be in harm's way.
Right.
And that is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That is what I'm talking about. The whole focus is always on race and what they're doing over there and what the people over there are doing to us, and we barely, if at all, talk about what we're doing to our own selves.
It's crazy, man. Let me say something, man. Let me put something on that. Do you think, and this is for the listeners too, do you think that the policies put in place by Dante, do you think that they do this kind of stuff to just like they deflect on purpose to other people to kind of take away from what they're doing, to take the eyes off of them? Do you think this is all just a big strategy?
Now we mean policies that Dante. So what exactly? What?
All right. The snitches get stitches.
Okay.
Violence in the community. Gang shootings, revenge shootings, this and that, crime, and then as soon as the heat is on Dante for his crimes, Dante says, "Well, what about Mr. White Guy over here? What about him? What about what he's doing?" Do you think that is the comeback that just ends all, that removes the magnifying glass from Dante?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think that that's really all that accurate, in the sense that there's nothing to combat because nobody's going after Dante. You follow me? Nobody's pointing Dante out. The focus is on what Trump's saying. The focus is on what the police departments are doing. The focus is on what these KKK rallies, which are rare, but we remember the one that happened on the East Coast a few months ago,
right?
And you don't hear anybody calling out Dante, but you do hear people calling out. I mean, not even the media is calling out Dante. But the moment a white cop shoots at a black male,
which is bad by itself, let's admit that's bad.
Yes, that is all over the news.
It's all over, and it should be. Let's just clarify that for.
All right, now let me put it out there. Who is shooting at black men more often? Is it white cops or other black males?
It's other black males, hands down.
Okay, so all the hoopla is over white cops, And I'm not saying that these handful, because not even most white cops, it's a very minute portion of white cops are perpetrators of police brutality. The whole hoopla and the whole focus is on them.
Right, right.
Then shouldn't there be just as much, if not more, on what we are doing to ourselves within our own community?
Right, right. Just a moment. Okay, and we're back. Yeah, what you make some valid points. There is a lot. Go ahead.
There's always a whole bunch of marching going on, you know, in a lot of the major cities.
Mm-hmm. As it should be, because they're marching against institutionalized. Like, for instance, like a cop will kill somebody and then they'll just straight up let the cop go, and they're like, wait a minute, the guy was running away and he got shot in the back and he planted evidence. There should be marching if they try to let him go, because see what the hood expects though is they expect Dante to get locked up when he does something bad.
Yes.
They don't expect Dante to get away. So but when a white cop gets away or they're trying to let him get away with it, that's like, whoa, you're crossing the line. Like, I can get that, but what we're saying is there's not enough focus on Dante.
Yes. Well, my whole point is, yes, valid point, there should be these marches. Let me add on to that. We should also march because of what we're doing to ourselves. That's the point that I make. Because I've never been afraid of a white person. Mm-hmm. I've never been afraid of a white person doing something to me. It's not to say that it can't happen. It's not to say that anybody can't somehow harm me or do something discriminative against me. But the one thing that I will tell you is that when you go into these inner cities, mm-hmm. What are you looking out for?
Not white cops.
Okay? What are you crossing your fingers won't happen?
Dante's, man.
Okay?
It's true. You know, okay, let me touch on something here real quick. Yeah, we don't march for Dante because the marching is against the power structure, because that's how people feel helpless, and they feel like that's the only way they can get the message out. With Dante, what they need to do is go to his house and rough him up. That's what a few guys need. That's what they really need to do. They need to somebody needs to talk to Dante and be like, hey, look, man, you can't do that around here. You're not going to be robbing stores and selling drugs. But see, here's what Dante does. Dante puts fear into the community. That's what I'm telling you. Like we talked about in our first talk, the image, the first part of Black Male Toxicity. We talked about their. Well, actually, we didn't talk about this part. We talked about this off air. There's this. They idolize certain people in the inner city. Will idolize the mafia and fictitious characters like Scarface, right, and The Godfather.
Yes.
They idolize that, and they become that. They live vicariously through those characters. Yes. They put fear into people with the threat of violence. Look at Ricky Smiley. We just played his interview. We just played the little small portion. There's the threat of physical violence if you talk about somebody, and that person may not like it, and it's a real threat of fear. Look at the rap community. Look how many fights and how many people have been beat up. And look at Meek Mill, people chasing him around trying to beat him up, and Chris Brown, people trying to beat him up, and there's all this rap beef, and that is indicative of what's happening in that community. But on top of that, the reason why people don't go after Dante the same way they go after the police is because they feel that the police, for the most part, will act decently. And once they've been exposed, then what they're trying to do is get it done through the legal system.
Yes.
But with Dante, they know there's fear, and that fear grips the community. And people are afraid to talk to Dante. And as a result, Dante doesn't get addressed.
Yes.
And here's another tactic. We talked about this yesterday as well. So Dante emulates, and he not just emulates, but he becomes the Godfather character, the Scarface, and he has enforcers in the community. He has his boys, and they do little dirty work for him, right? His goons, and they work together, and they get what they want. They extract from the community. They extract from the women, places to live, money. They take her money. They extract from their mothers, their poor mothers, who can't control them because usually there's not a father in their lives anyway. So they just run all over their poor mom, their mothers. So Dante is out of control. He has set up for himself a little kingdom in the black community, and people are afraid of him. He's like, the Scarface character, and as a result, he's running the show. And you have people like Ricky Smiley. And let me break this fence rider. The fence rider. Let me explain the fence rider again for anybody who's listening to this for the first time. A fence rider is nomenclature, terminology that I created to understand and define black men and black women who are afraid to confront Dante and tell Dante about his unfortunate lifestyle. And they, even because of their fear and because of their love and in some respects for the hood and the hood culture, these people may be educated, but they toe the line for Dante.
Yeah.
They toe the line. They if Dante says, well, what about these white cops? Well, what about this system of oppression? They parrot that because Dante is the smartest person in the whole group because he wields the power. And let me show you how he does it. First is the physical threats of violence. Second, there's the fear of ridicule, the fear of ostracism, right? Dante holds the word coon over your head if you say something Dante doesn't like. True or false?
Yes.
Dante likes to call people coons and Uncle Toms and things. And when these terms don't even apply,
exactly,
people become a coon. And Steve Harvey's a coon. Oh, this person's a coon. Everybody's a coon. And the only person who's not called out still in all of the name calling is Dante. Dante gets to sit back and enjoy the show. So fear of ridicule, which is probably the most powerful form of control, mental handcuffs.
yes.
So you have the fear of ridicule, we have the fear of violence, and we have the fear of having your black card revoked,
Yes.
which is... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, when you speak out, when you speak out against what is happening within our communities by us, okay,
Right.
and you point out that, hey, look, what's happening with the government, what's happening institutionally, what is happening within the police department, pales in comparison to what we're doing to ourselves. Not to say that we shouldn't take care of those issues.
Right.
But when you make a point that they pale in comparison to what we're doing to ourselves, and that's when you start to hear those name calling, the name callings that you mentioned. Okay. One of the problems that we have is that if blacks don't realize, you see, the one thing they do realize, the one thing that many blacks believe is that, hey, look, many white people don't want us around, they want to get rid of us. Period. Okay, I'll give you that for some whites. There are some whites out there that think that.
Yeah, there's some.
But guess what? All those white folks have to do is stand back and watch what we're doing, because we're doing that to ourselves. We're getting rid of our own, amongst our own. They don't need police brutality, okay? They don't need white John Smith, Lieutenant John Smith to go and gun down a sweatshirt hooded black team to get rid of blacks, okay? Because that quote unquote Dante,
Mm-hmm.
who's a gangbanger, is taking care of 5 of them in a day anyway.
Man, it's the truth, man. It is the truth. And let me tell you something. You got people like Larry Elder. I may not agree with him on everything. Larry Elder will come out and will speak the truth on this topic, and you just sit back and watch the show, man. The first word that comes out of people's mouths is coon. That's the new word. That's the new. That's the term of the year, of the day now. Everybody likes to call it people coon. He'll come out and say something. He's like, dude, what about this? Dante's killing 10, 15 people. What about him? It's 15-1. The score is 15-1. Shouldn't we, like for instance, I had a friend that was a Marine. He was in the infantry. He told me their job, there's a front, there's a gunner, there's a guy who has the biggest gun. The saw, I think at that time was a saw. There's the guy who has the big gun. He's like the squad, I guess the squad leader. If I'm messing this up, you guys just correct me in the comments. Whatever. It really doesn't matter, to be honest. So there's a guy who has the biggest gun, right? In a little squad of 4 or 5 guys, right? And their goal is that guy's making the most noise. He's doing the most damage with that big gun. Their goal is to take him out first. That's the aim. Because he's taking the most people out. But with the black community, with the enforcement of these rules, the mental handcuffs, as well as the threat of physical violence, when you try to talk about Dante, you become coon.
Mm-hmm.
That's immediately given to you. Even though Dante's the guy with the biggest gun, killing the most people.
Exactly.
And even the rules of war and engagement, it's just logical to take out the guy with the biggest gun.
Well, what it is the redirection of people's attention from the real problem and putting it on this other problem that's minuscule.
Exactly, man.
And your Cornel West, yes, I'm going to call out these names right now. Your Cornel West, your Michael Dysons, your Tavis Smileys, and the likes. The list goes, it's a long list.
Fence riders.
Are these fence riders. These are the ones that are redirecting the attention of the black community from the issues within the black community and fixating that attention on what's happening outside.
Yeah. And
what's happening, what's being perpetrated by them over there.
Yeah.
That happen not to be black.
Right. It's so true, man. And when you think about it, it's so crazy. And see what happens is they and then the next thing out of their mouths is, oh, you support white supremacy. That's the theme of the year now. White supremacy. All 2017 it was white supremacy. You support white. No, we don't. We want both Dante and the KKK gone. Both of them.
Yes.
Both. But right now, Dante's more of a pressing issue.
Exactly.
But guess what? We can multitask. We'll deal with this guy and this guy at the same time. They're both important to deal with.
Exactly, because you would have to drive far and long to find a KKK rally.
Right.
All right. You don't have to drive too far to see gangbangers on the street corners, to see them in the process of doing good rap things, committing crimes, etc.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's right there. It's apparent. And that's the thing. That's what I'm saying is the reason why Dante's not addressed, and the reason why we're doing this whole discussion about what about Dante is because no one wants to focus on him because they're afraid of being called names and afraid of violence. They're afraid of having their black card pulled. These are the threats that are used against people, and it's some sort of like mob. Look, let me put it this way. Really intelligent African American gentleman mentioned this terminology, and it stuck to me, and it made so much sense. He said the African American nation, in and of itself, as a subgroup, is a fascist state. It's in a state of fascism. And the way it operates is like how a fascist state would operate. And we're not talking about economic fascism. We're talking about, groupthink level 10.
Yes.
And, fear. Like the fear that was put into people in communist era Russia.
Yes.
Fear of reprisal. Fear of not being, not towing the line.
Yes.
This is what's happening. People are afraid. But see, here's what happens. And I want to talk about solutions right now. Because I want to, we've identified the issue. I want to move on. I want to talk about solutions.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because it's almost as though our minds connected. We were on the same vibrational wave.
Yes.
Simultaneously, because as you were saying, let's talk about solutions. In my head, I was like, we need to talk about solutions.
Yes.
Because there are solutions to these issues that we're addressing.
Right. See, so here's how we battle this. Let's take it one by one. Number one, the name calling. Coon and this and that. First of all, you can't be afraid to be called a name, guys. For anybody who's listening, you know what's going on. You want to speak up. The tools that are being used against you are fear of ridicule, fear of ostracism. That's okay. Be ostracized. Guess what? There's a whole group of black people like you who want nothing to do with those other black people.
Exactly.
So there exists another group. Now, guess what Dante's response is to this? Because he sees this as... Dante's afraid of this, first of all. Let me tell you why. And so are the fence riders. Because Dante, what he does in this situation is if you try to start another group, Dante then demands unity. But what he really means is unity under his flag of violence and force and ridicule, and that's what he wants. And no snitching policy. So
yes.
You can't be afraid of Dante's words, number one. Don't threaten violence against Dante. That's what Dante wants. That's what he specializes in. You don't want to threaten violence against people like that because it will end poorly, because Dante is not the type of person that reasons things through. There's plenty of them in jail. Okay? They're not the type of person that thinks things through in terms of he's unable to control himself. He's very unstable, volatile. So with Dante, you're not going to use force. You're not going to use violence with him. You can go and talk to him, but you can't use violence. And he will most likely threaten violence at some point when you talk to him. That's the problem with Dante. But a solution is, number one, don't be afraid of the names. Don't be afraid to be called, to think for yourself and to be called a coon. First of all, a coon, according to the definition, is a black person who entertains white people. Okay? So you can't be a coon for wanting to clean up your community, number one. That just doesn't make any sense. Now, the black-white supremacist thing. Now, what do you have to say about that? Do you have any comments on that solution?
That is a great solution. I mean, it is. Mm-hmm. That solution is definitely one that is needed. Another solution that came into mind is because let's face the facts. And the facts are these. Number one, within the black community, gangbangers are also a minuscule facet of the community, because most blacks clearly and most black males clearly are not gangbangers. We are focusing on Dante. So one of the solutions that I would like to see is everybody else who's not the quote-unquote Dante, who's not the gangbanger, mm-hmm. Those people gathering together, and it kind of ties in to what you were saying about not being afraid and standing up against them, standing up against the havoc that they wreak within the black community.
Right.
Putting the same emphasis mm-hmm. and the same fervor and the same zeal towards cleaning up our communities and what we're doing to ourselves that we use when we're talking about getting rid of racism.
Right.
And I promise you that you will actually see better, faster results within the Black community if we were to do that.
Right.
And I would love to see these Black leaders do the same thing. Call a spade a spade. Call them out. Tell them, hey, look, because here's the thing. This is the thing that really gets to me. When we start doing the blame game, it's their fault, it's the white man's fault, the government's fault, it's everybody's fault, blah, blah, blah. What we do is we give our power away.
Yeah, right.
We give our power away, we give it to them. Okay? So there's absolutely no, it makes sense why, there is that thought that, hey, look, they're more powerful, they are suppressing us, etc. Well, that's because in addition to some of the things that they've done in our history, and some of the things that they're doing currently, a small group of them, but in conjunction with us giving them our power. Because you see, if we were to just take responsibility, take accountability for the way things are within our community, then you will begin to see true changes within the community that will lead to more education, more knowledge, more wisdom, a safer community, especially within the inner cities. And this isn't to say that crime will be eradicated, that you'll get rid of gang bangers. No, we're not saying that this will cause a utopian society within the Black community. But what we are saying is that in order, change begins within. Right,
it does.
And you can't expect anything outside of you to change if you're unwilling to change. So that also means your thought process. That means your talk. That means how you see the world.
Right.
And right now, what we need to do as part of the solution is to look within and ask ourselves, what are we doing to ourselves that are bringing us down?
Right.
And once we are able to get rid of using some Bible references, once we are able to get rid of the log in our own eye, then we can go and get the splinter out of theirs.
Right. Let me say this. Let me touch on a few points that you made. Let me continue with the solutions.
Yes.
One of the things is, definitely, I talked about not fearing Dante. Don't fear Dante. Don't confront him either. But don't be afraid to speak up about him online, to do what we're doing. Make videos. Talk about him openly online. Shame him. Shame him. Use the same tools that they use against them. Psychological warfare works both ways, both directions. Dante's a criminal. Let it be known. Dante is a sad, he's honestly just trash. He's acting like trash. As a human being, he's not trash, but he's acting like trash, and that can change. But tell him he's being trash. He's being a low-life individual. And low-life individuals should be shamed. They should be ashamed of themselves. And they should be ostracized. These people should not be coddled. This is the problem with the fence riders. They coddle Dante.
They do.
They make Dante feel comfortable. They invite him on their TV shows.
Yes.
They talk to him. They shake his hand.
Yes.
Fence riders are the most dangerous people. They legitimize Dante, and they're, in a sense, to blame for his mainstreaming.
Yes.
Fence riders. Thank you very much, fence riders. You created this situation. Number 2, create a new group. Online, there's a group of what do you call it? I think it's called Black. There's a whole community with Black Punk. it's like black punk rockers, but they're not like punk as in rock and roll. They're into different things, different music. They play their own music. They have their own culture. There's a burgeoning culture. There's also the black nerds, which people who are into like anime and that sort of thing. Yes, become divergent. Branch off. Leave the ghetto mentally as well as physically. Leave it. Leave the speech. Don't adopt their language. When they're barely speaking English anyway. So when they talk, just ignore them. Huh? What? What'd you say? Speak English. Okay? Yeah, I mean, create a new group with different interests. Find other black people who were just like you. You're still going to be black. See,
yes.
that's one of the tools Dante uses against black people who try not to be a part of the street. What they do is they try to say, oh, you're not black. No, I'm not like you. I'm not a criminal wannabe thug. Okay?
Exactly.
That's what's going on. So stand up for yourself. Tell Dante, give him a piece of your mind. Just correct him in this. But like, no, I'm a different black. You are street. You're thug. You're gangster, and that's trash. You're doing nothing but hurting the image of black people. You're hurting the black community. You're perpetuating negative stereotypes. I'm not about that. I speak English. I may speak it with a different vernacular than the street vernacular, but it doesn't mean I sound like another group of people. It just means I sound like an intelligent black person, like Oprah,
yes.
like Obama, like Michelle Obama. That's it. You're just a different form of black person, a better form at that, and you let them know. Number 3, be your best when it comes to dress as well. Don't listen to their music. Don't listen to Dante's music. Find music that represents your values. Whether it be R&B or whether it be rappers, whether it be your Kendrick Lamars or whoever, find rappers who espouse your values that you can listen to and be proud to share. Don't allow them to sell trash to you.
Yes.
Don't allow that. So those are a few solutions that I have to counteract Dante. You got to stand up for yourself. You have to be strong, and you have to treat him as if he's abnormal, because he is abnormal.
Yes.
That's why he's in jail at that rate. He is. That's why he's in jail. So Dante wants to mainstream having 10, 15 kids out of wedlock with 10, 15 mothers. He wants to mainstream that. You need to tell him that's abnormal and you're a piece of trash for doing that to people. You're trash for doing that. Okay? Just get with the program. You shouldn't be impregnating all these women. What's your problem?
And that is another issue within the black community that we have. And, one of the reasons why you have these Dantes is because, he touched on it a little bit, the lack of a male figure. And
right.
So if we can have black males, ourselves included, to be able to be a mentor. Right. Mentorship is a solution. To let them know and to show them, hey, look, there is another way of living. There's a better way of living, and you'll be able to have a plethora of opportunities just flying at you if you just go on another path than the one you're currently taking. Mm-hmm. And that'll be extremely helpful, because until we're able to really make the family unit strong. I mean, the family unit within the black community is strong, but there are some gaping holes, and those gaping holes are usually the lack of a father figure, right. The lack of a two-parent home, and so you hear this, many reasons why you have black males going to gangs is because those gangs make them feel like family. Yeah. Okay, so if we are able to get our actual families stronger, more cohesive than our young black males when they're 10, 11, 12 years old won't be as persuaded easily
Right.
to join a gang.
Right.
Okay? And that is what we need to really focus on. That's another solution, making the family unit stronger.
Yeah, the family unit needs to be strong. You know, unfortunately, there's a lot of out of wedlock marriages, but there are some black mothers who are able to make it happen. You look at Ben Carson's story; he's got an amazing story. I read his book when I was a kid, Gifted Hands. I actually met him also when I was a kid. My dad brought me out to go see him when I was in middle school, and see him speak. And I actually met him, shook his hand, and everything. He was poor. His mom was illiterate. He grew up in the poor neighborhood, but because of her commitment to education, to him getting an education, he made it. He's one of those people who made it out, man. And he's a prime example. Just because you come from a single parent family, you know, you're going to have to give up this notion of being cool according to Dante's standards in order to make it. You can't be cool with Dante and become a success. I mean, unless you're going to just be a fence rider. And that's, you know, those people, in my opinion, are trash anyway. So you can't be cool according to those standards. You're going to have to be cool according to nerd standards. You're going to have to be different. You know, we have to. Here's another thing I want to touch on really quickly. We need to celebrate those who are curious, those who look to invent, those who look to do science projects and try to find something new. Those people need to be celebrated. Those aren't, yeah, they may be nerdy, quote unquote, but we need the nerds. Nerds who are people who make stuff for us. Come on, man. You know, we need those people, and those people can be cool too if we see them as cool. You know, like obviously we have dorks and stuff like that. You know, gaming dorks. You know, they're socially awkward, but we need people who can really do good work with computers and try to invent stuff. And we need that culture. That's the culture we need, because right now we have the culture of Dante. And then everything outside of Dante is either coon or a nerd, or you're soft, or you're just a reject, you know, in the black community. And it shouldn't be like that. So what we need is we need more diversity within the black community. We talked about this in our first interview, our first discussion, in the image and what's considered cool. Okay, so if you guys haven't heard that discussion, to the listeners, go back and check that out. Anyway, we're gonna have to wrap this up. Bro, any final comments on this? Dante, any solutions? Final solutions?
You know, just let's be accountable. The real work starts within. Within ourselves as individuals, within our community. And that is when you start to see true change. Everything else will fall in place after that accordingly. Right.
Definitely. I really appreciate it, man. Once again, to those who are listening, we hope that this information will help you. We hope that you will be inspired to be curious, inspired to meet others of like mind, start groups on Facebook, find people, do meetups, develop a new culture. We need it. We need a new culture within Black America, one that doesn't bow down to Dante, one that respects women. Let's not call, you know what's needed. You know, if you're listening to this, if you've made it this far in the interview, you know what's needed. Let's work on that together. Let's make a change in this community. Let's make a change for the better. And, you know, I see a bright future. I'm already seeing things happen. So,
oh yes,
things are happening already. So anyway, bro, thanks so much. Hold on for just a second. I'm gonna stop this podcast. And for everybody else, I'll see you in the next podcast. Thank you very much. Bye.